If you've read my book, you know who Captain Paul Watson from Sea Shepherd is. Some of you have seen some of the gorgeous endorsements on the book that I'm very proud of. But people see somebody like, oh, Anthony Kiedis from the Red Hot Chili Peppers endorsed your book. Yeah, well, he did, because I met him through Captain Paul, of course, because he just attracts everybody because he's this a rock star to the rock stars is what he is, and a hero to every animal in the world, on this earth. So I'm so proud to have him here. My book it's sprinkled with him all through it, and I've told him to just say what he wants to say and read what he wants to read from it, because we're so just thrilled to have him here.
Thank you. You know, one of the greatest American conservationists of all was Henry David Thoreau, and he had a simple message, which was simplify, simplify, simplify. If you want to communicate a message, make it simple. And I think that this book certainly does that. It brings a message across in a simple enough way so that people can read it without getting all too complex and bored and everything else. And that's really good, because as long as people can understand the message, they're going to be able to make changes in their life. One of the problems that we have here is that green organizations, and that's the chapter I'm wanting to address in this book on the greens, is that green organizations haven't really understood the contradiction that if you want to be an environmentalist, you have to be a vegan, or at least a vegetarian. And people are very, very reluctant. And one of the things that Karen does point out in this book is that Al Gore, when he made his film, The Inconvenient Truth, the most inconvenient truth of all is that he didn't even mention the meat industry. The meat industry produces more global greenhouse gas emissions than the entire automobile industry. In fact, a vegan driving a Hummer contributes less to greenhouse gas emissions than a meat eater riding a bicycle. And people just don't think about that. You know, to produce 1 pound of beef requires 3,000 gallons of water. And so when I find a conservation organization say we have to conserve water, well, simply just don't eat the steak on your plate, and you're going to, you don't have to worry about the extra 2 minutes in the shower. But this is the kind of thing, they're not getting the point. And there's very, very few environmental organizations that have seen that. And until they do, they're really not environmentalists. You cannot be an environmentalist unless you're a vegetarian or a vegan. And that's I think that's something that's really important that has gotten across in this book, and we're trying to get that across to more and more people. So we have to come at this from all points, because people are concerned about the ethics of eating meat, yes. People are concerned about the health aspects of eating meat, yes. But the most important thing, of course, is the environmental aspects. And one of the things that Karen brings out in this book is, the incredible pollution that's caused by pig farming, for instance, the contamination of the groundwater in South Carolina. And, and everybody the government authorities just sort of ignore this. And the fact is that if we were to eliminate the meat industry, we would have a cleaner earth, we'd have a more viable future for our planet, and we would certainly have more food to feed a hungry world. Look at the so-called seafood industry, as they call it. 90% of the world's large fishes have been exterminated already. Every single commercial fishery in the world is in a state of collapse. And according to the Pew Foundation, by 2048, there will be no commercial fishery anywhere in the world. In fact, I think that's rather conservative. It'll be gone within 20 years. The fisheries are collapsing, and that means that the oceans are collapsing. And I can tell you right now, if the ecosystems of this planet in our oceans die, then we will die. We will not survive. So when people say, what's this got to do with people? It's got everything to do with people. Last year I was attacked by the Fox network, well, big surprise, for saying that, they said, well, you said that worms were more important than people. How could you say such a thing? Well, I did say that. And how did I say that? Why did I say that? Because they are. And here's the reason why. Worms can live on the earth without us. We cannot live on the earth without them. And that holds true. It holds true for bacteria and insects and all these so-called lower forms of animals that everybody takes for granted in their life. Without them, we would not be here. We owe our very existence to them. And yet we're now living in what Richard Leakey, the great anthropologist, describes as a 6th major extinction on this planet. And it takes the planet at least 10 to 20 million years to recover from such a thing. The planet will abide. The planet will survive. We will lose hundreds of thousands of species. Unfortunately, we will be one of them. So when people say, what are you doing? It's really self-preservation. It is self-defense. We must protect the oceans. We must protect diversity. So we have to look at the world in a more realistic sort of way. And that realistic sort of way is to understand that there is that relationship between all of these species, and that a flower, a bee, a whale, a seal, and a chipmunk are your brothers and sisters. And every time we remove one of those species, we diminish the carrying capacity of the planet for all of us. So it's very important that we have books like this that can actually reach out to people and explain this in ways that people can understand. And I think that this book is certainly one of those. And I'm certainly quite proud that I was able to participate in the making of this book. And thank you, Karen, for writing it. And I hope it's a real success, and I think it will be. Thank you.